Hey, what's going on? Happy holiday season's greetings. This is the Leafs Convo, Season 8, Episode 16 for December 28th, 2025. I got a new hat. What do you guys think? My wife hated the old one that you all hated too with the flat brim. So I got a couple of new chapeaus. We're breaking out the first one today. I'm sure you won't like it either. Mr. Augello in Buffalo, Norman, London, the Maple Leafs, 2 straight wins since we pretty much wrote the death sentence for one Craig Berube, who's still the head coach, by the way. He did lose the power play specialist in Mark Savard. He's replaced by Steve Sullivan. And what do you know? They scored 2 power play goals in their 7-5 win over the Ottawa Senators at Scotiabank Arena on Saturday night. Mr. Augello, Austin Matthews scoring a goal, William Nylander with a couple of points, goals in 2 straight games. And then he leaves in the second period. So let's start with what's going on with Mr. Nylander, and then we'll continue from there. Good morning.
Good morning, Norm. And I'm growing a new beard, so there you go. So you got a new hat, I've got a new beard. Yeah, it's a little bit concerning. Although Craig Berube after the game revealed that Nylander would be traveling with the team to Detroit. If it was something extremely serious, then he wouldn't have been traveling. But it's questionable whether he will be playing tonight in the second of back-to-back against the Wings. If I had to gamble, I would say he probably doesn't. The video of it, and I retweeted it, the excellent Tic Tac Omar on Twitter, who cuts up a lot of the videos and finds stuff from the broadcasts. It looked like he sort of wobbled on his left ankle and then left the game. And maybe it was just precautionary. Maybe it was because they're playing the second of back-to-back, and they, at that point were in a lead, although they did their best to give it up against the Senators. But we'll see tonight whether he's in the lineup or not.
2 goals against Pittsburgh earlier in the week. I mean, a 4-point night. We've been waiting for Willie to break out this month. And it seems that he has. Obviously, injury is a concern, and the key will be if he's going to sustain any kind of good play, he's got to be healthy, as goes for the entire team. 2 power play goals last night, Mike. One that was on a setup, which was great. We barely ever see that. The other on a broken play, but they'll take it. Steve Sullivan, we remember him as the feisty guy who played with the Leafs in the late '90s, and was he traded to the Devils? I think.
No, he was
Chicago.
He was acquired from the Devils in the Doug Gilmour Dave.
Oh, okay.
But then, as this was one of the Pat Quinn specials, who didn't like small players,
right?
And Steve Sullivan scored for them, but we need to get Dmitry Kristich from the Boston Bruins. So they signed Dmitry Kristich, and they put Steve Sullivan on waivers, and he gets claimed by Chicago and has a better career than Dmitry Kristich.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Kristich was a guy they thought would come in
was a piece of crap. That's
okay. Well, I mean, during that time, Pat Quinn led the team to a couple of conference finals.
Sure.
So forget about that. What I'm getting at is Steve Sullivan rejoins the team as a coach, and is he focused on the power play? I mean, is that's his goal, is to try to get this thing going? A coincidence that they score 2 with the man advantage against Ottawa while Sullivan makes his debut behind the Leafs bench. Mm-hmm. What do we make of it?
Well, you first have to make that the Senators are 31st in the league in penalty killing. Okay. Second of all, it was a sort of preamble to the game that Sullivan was basically just going to sort of like get into the swing of things, that he's just stepping in, and that I think it was Lalonde was going to be helping him out with the power play until he gets up to speed.
Right.
Now all of a sudden you can't say, "Oh my God, they've really grabbed onto what Sullivan really hasn't taught them anything yet." So I mean, he gets credit for being there, but I think it was more the fact that the Sens suck killing penalties, and maybe a little bit of relief that the systems that Savard was implementing just simply didn't work. So I mean, it probably maybe a little bit of just decrease of the pressure, but the whole thing with Savard, I have to say, the fiasco that played out this week, Craig Berube should have been fired, but won't be fired. And what Brad Treliving came out and basically gave him a vote of confidence. tells me that Brad Treliving doesn't have the authority to fire Craig Berube, that his job is on the line as much as Craig Berube's job is on the line. And if this team misses the playoffs, I'm starting to wonder whether both of them will be swept out in the summer. Now, if you look at the standings right now, they're 3 points out of a playoff spot. They're, I think, 4 or 5 points out of third place in the Atlantic. So, they put a winning streak together like Buffalo has, which is 8 in a row, and Buffalo is behind them. Buffalo is not even in the playoffs yet. If they put a winning streak together of 6 or 7 games, which is possible because this team is not a bad team, they just have been playing inconsistently, then they can get back in this playoff race. But they've been so chaotic and so schizophrenic all year that you don't know what's going to happen. They play Detroit on Sunday. They could get beaten 8-1. You don't know what's going to happen.
This is the Convo. Norman, London, Mike in Buffalo. Please like the content, subscribe to the channel, look out for our shorts on YouTube and all of the clips that we cut up on TikTok. We're growing and we're having a really good time doing it, even if the Maple Leafs have been suffering so far and concurrent to our growth, the Leafs kind of regressing. But that is life when you're a content creator. Where do I want to kind of hit on here, Mike? 3 points out of a playoff spot right now. They play the Wings Sunday night. There's a difference of 9 points between themselves and the Wings, who sit at the top of the division. I can ask whether the Wings are for real or if this is, a real test for the Maple Leafs to see if they can play with the division's elite. But, I kind of feel like one of the reasons, the main reason why the Leafs are where they are is not so much the competition, but themselves. And the other thing I wanted to bring up is, if there were a couple of teams that you wanted to face while your job was on the line, it would be Pittsburgh and Ottawa. Craig Berube is really lucky in that even if Brad Treliving was kind of on the fence whether he should let him go or not, that they were facing 2 teams that were totally beatable. They beat the shit out of the Penguins and then score 7 against the Ottawa Senators. 13 goals in an offensive outburst that was much needed, but against teams that leave a lot to be desired. And coming in off of Christmas, you weren't expecting a Picasso. We did not get that last night. More of a dog's breakfast. But fire wagon hockey, the Leafs can win those kinds of games, and in the process, inflate some egos and get guys going again, kind of heating a little bit up. And Austin Matthews with 3 points too. So I don't know where else you want to take this, Mike, but there's just a lot to get to. So let's just kind of one by one point things out, and we'll move forward.
Well, okay, let's look at those 2 games as sort of a cautionary tale. They were up 3-1 on Pittsburgh, and they blew the 3-1 lead.
Right.
And Max Domi scores a Gilbert Perreault type of weaving through the entire team goal to give them the lead and then eventually the victory.
Right.
This game, they're up 2-0 on 2 power play goals. They give that up. They score 3 goals in the second period. They're up 5-2. Ottawa comes back, makes it 5-4. They get a goal to make it 6-4. I mean, they did their utmost to give this game away.
Right.
And why? Because they play shit defensively. They really, they play inconsistent defensively, and this goes to the heart of the matter when it comes to Craig Berube. His lineup decisions are asinine. I mean, I am sorry. There is no way that Philippe Myers should be in the NHL. And he's got him playing on the top pairing with Morgan Rielly.
Where's Simon Benoit?
Well, where's Simon Benoit? Where's Henry Thrun? Henry Thrun was just sent back to the Marlies. He shouldn't have been. It should have been Philippe Myers being placed on waivers, but they don't want to lose him because he'd have to clear waivers. But I don't know who in the hell would claim this guy because, you know what his main benefit is? His main benefit is that he's right-handed. And I'm sorry. Okay, yes, you can be right-handed. Corbinian Holzer was right-handed. Doesn't mean he didn't suck. And Philippe Myers sucks. He is not a good defenseman. Last year he played okay. Last year Dakota Mermis played okay. This year they played terribly. And Philippe Myers is not a replacement for Brandon Carlo.
Right.
He's not a replacement for Chris Tanev. You cannot play this guy major minutes. And obviously, you can't play him on the bottom pairing either because when he's played the bottom pairing, he's been a liability. So when this team is completely healthy and Brandon Carlos skated for the first time yesterday, at least that the media saw, skated for the first time, and he's expected probably to be back in early January. Once he is back, then your six defensemen will be Riley and Carlo, McCabe and Tanev, and it should be Ekman Larson and Troy Stetcher.
Right.
And Simone Benoit is a decent number 7, and Philippe Myers can go to hell because Philippe Myers is terrible. And I'm not singling him out. He's not like the latest in the Mike Augello. Let's point at a defenseman, Corey Cross, Jyrke Lume, Anders Eriksson, Aki Berg. He's just not an NHL defenseman. And I do not know why in the hell Craig Berube is playing him. They had an effective pairing with Riley and Ekman Larson. Until Carlo gets back, why would you not put Riley and Ekman Larson together and then have Stetcher with Benoit or Henry Thrun on your bottom pairing? No, he's got to play Philippe Myers because he's big. Well, he's big and he's slow and he's bad defensively. Other than that, he's great.
Is there no one is there no one that Craig Berube is going to listen to on that coaching staff? Are they in unison on these decisions?
Yeah, I think they are.
Wow.
And I think that the general manager, if the general manager said, okay, we traded for Thrun and he's got a lot of NHL experience and Myers is not playing well, so you should play Thrun. Obviously, Berube has control of the roster. And if he has control of the roster, then Treliving can't really interlope and say you should play this guy. He's going to decide. And I think he knows Philippe Myers from Philadelphia, so this is like Caden Primo. Oh, we claim Caden Primo because I know his dad. It's like, some of the lineup decisions are absolutely ridiculous.
Right. Look, we expected Craig Berube to be fired. He wasn't fired. There's a sense of disappointment about that amongst Leafs fans. We're resigned to the fact that it's him and Treliving tied at the hip for however long these guys can survive at 40 Bay. If you want the head coach fired, let him keep making moves like this. Let him dig his own grave. And yes, it's going to be painful between now and wherever the Leafs finish their season. But if we want, again, with these certain players that we want to expose and we want to see gone at some point for recoupment of better, plus the management, plus the coaching staff, this is what we're going to have to endure for the last few days of this year and into the first part of 2026. I hate to say it, but it's true.
Well, I don't think the Leaf fans want Berube fired. I think they want the Leafs to make the playoffs. And if they want the Leafs to make the playoffs, then Berube's got to make better lineup decisions. And
if he hasn't to this point, Mike, what makes you think he's going to?
Well,
right. And then there's the other portion to that, which is a major portion, is that the Leafs just don't have the personnel. Like if you were to mix master them properly to take you to where you really, really want to go.
Well, the general manager has the hammer. If you remember back in the day with Lou Lamoriello and Mike Babcock, Mike Babcock was the 800-pound gorilla, and Lou Lamoriello claimed Frankie Corrado off of waivers, and then basically, Babcock wouldn't play him, and Lamoriello said, "Well, I'm not waiving him, I'm keeping him." And eventually and he did the same thing with Justin Hall, and then Justin Hall played when they finally fired Babcock, or Dubas fired Babcock, and Justin Hall played. And in retrospect, Justin Hall wasn't that good, but you've got these. The coach has control over the roster, but I'll tell you where I think Leaf fans will get very pissy. There's been no defenseman right now, I'd say, other than Jake McCabe, who has played better over the last 4 or 5 weeks since he was claimed from Edmonton than Troy Stetcher. Troy Stetcher should be on the bottom pairing when everybody is healthy. Then he gives you 3 right shot defensemen in Stetcher, Carlo, and Tanev. If he sits Troy Stetcher for Philippe Myers, he should be fired immediately. And that's not hyperbole. It's malpractice.
The fact he wasn't fired earlier this week tells me that Berube and Treliving are going down together.
Yeah, well, I agree. And then the report that Elliot Friedman had last night on his headlines, that Peter DeBoer, through an intermediary, reached out to Craig Berube and said, I'm not, basically, I'm not trying to take your job. I'm not interested, which I thought was the case. DeBoer, he's got the rest of this year on his contract from Dallas. That might have been a factor in terms of Treliving not firing him.
We don't know.
If he couldn't get DeBoer, who was the guy you were going to hire?
Right.
So maybe Treliving has a life after Berube. Berube was his first hire as coach. But I'll just say this: if he didn't see a viable option to replace him like a DeBoer, then he basically it was the best of a bad situation to keep Berube. But if he misses the playoffs, I mean, I don't care if he has got 2 or 3 or 5 years left in his contract. I think he's going to get fired.
Projecting what's to come on the landscape, perhaps the idea is to just hold the fort until the off seasons. You get what you get out of 25, 26, and then you make the changes from a point where you can start fresh, start clean. Armando, if anything good is to be solid, or anything good, if anything good is to be said, is with Tanev back, it stabilizes the back end. Benoit is better than Myers. I mean, Benoit was like a really effective during the Leafs playoff run last year. I don't know why is he?
Because he hasn't played well this year. He really hasn't. I mean, and
a lot of guys haven't, Mike.
I know, but it's been consistent. He has not played well at all. He hasn't played as physically as he has in the past. The one thing I give Benoit credit for is he does step up into the offensive attack every once in a while, but then he gets caught. And that's the thing. It's like, when you're a bottom pairing defenseman and you're a big defenseman, it's sort of like do no harm. Let the other guys be the ones that carry the mail. And Benoit, for Benoit to be at his most effective defensive partner has been Jake McCabe. But because Benoit plays the left side, McCabe's going to flip over to the right. And McCabe is not good on the right side.
So who's your seventh? Carlo comes back. Stetcher's looking great. I mean, maybe he's a guy you re-sign.
Benoit is the seventh.
So he should be in there right now.
Well, no, you don't. You're only playing 6. Benoit is your 7th, meaning in case
he should be in there over Myers, and that's
that's where the left-right thing comes in because he's not in there. Because if he's in there, then you're probably going to have to play somebody on the right side who is a lefty, and they'd rather go left, right, left, right, left, right. Okay, but when the guy on the right stinks, that doesn't matter. And that's why when everybody's back, when Carlo is back, he's in your top 4. And, Tanev is with McCabe, and Stetcher is your righty on the bottom pairing. And so, I think Stetcher has endeared himself to Leaf fans with his solid play. He's been good. No talk about politics here. Who cares if you're a lefty? Oh, you mean he's a left-handed? Okay, sorry. But Stetcher's a righty, and he fits in well. And I saw him riling up the crowd after the game yesterday. I don't know how much that means, but if he sort of feels good, it's like, get going. Yeah, okay. I think he should be waving at his teammates because, when they're up 5-2 and they almost blow the game, then that shows some flaws in your team and the way that you're playing. You should be a little more stout defensively like you were last year. You know how to do it. You're just not doing it.
Trades Miles, 30 years of whining about a 7th defenseman. Wouldn't it be nice if we were lauding a stalwart generational defenseman? The Leafs really haven't had one since Boreas Salmon.
Miles, we're not whining. It's not 30 years about whining about a 7th defenseman. It's 30 years about whining about a player who should be a 7th defenseman being in your top 4.
Right.
Which has been the case. Up until recently. This team has not had depth on the blue line. I think
Zach, we had Brian Leach for 2 minutes. He doesn't count.
Yeah, and Brian Leach.
He doesn't count. I'm talking about a homegrown, drafted, stalwart star who carries this team.
Yeah, which we haven't had. You're right. Which we haven't had since Thomas Caberlet, and before that,
Well,
Boreas Salm.
Thomas, I don't know if you put Thomas Caberlet in the pantheon with the Salmings and the
I'm
Lidstrums.
not, but he was an all-star
Okay,
defenseman,
right.
and he was a power play quarterback, and he was a good play. I
Hey,
mean,
but he was an offensive defenseman,
yes,
Mike. And
and so is Morgan Riley, and you know my issue with Leaf fans when it comes to Morgan Riley. Morgan Riley is what Morgan Riley is.
yeah,
He's an offensive defenseman. He's never going to be Shea Weber. He's never
yeah.
going to be a defensive stalwart. What you have to do, and which they finally did last year, is get a defensive defenseman to play with him to make his defensive giveaways less impactful. And when who knows how long Carlo has been dealing with this foot injury that he had surgery for. Once he comes back, that could be your best defensive pairing because Riley has been better offensively this year. Defensively, he's never going to be great. He just never is. So you can stop. It's just never going to happen.
OG's Converse, like the content, subscribe to the channel. What do you think of my hat? New for Christmas. I got a couple of them. I'm going to bust them out after the Leafs win. When the Leafs don't win, I'm going to jump into something else that represents, something more successful for the time being. A week ago, we figured that Craig Berube was on borrowed time. We appreciate all of the support for our last bit of content. It's been amazing. He's still around. 2 wins from the Maple Leafs in the meantime. A couple of power play goals against the Senators last night. Steve Sullivan, go ahead and take credit for it. You're the new guy on the bench running the power play. We wish you very well. Mike, the way I view this team is you get what you get and you don't get upset, right? Because it's been a slog to this point in the season, and I can't see it changing. Now, 3 points out of a playoff spot, still, you can see the shoreline from where they are, cast away from the top of the division to the bottom. I guess statistically, mathematically, there is still hope and it keeps us clinging. But honestly, to this point, I don't know what gives you any indication, and I'm not saying you're thinking this, but anyone, a feeling that at some point the team's going to right the ship, get its shit together, go on a heater, and get to the place that it was last season. A few more points and we'll get out of here.
I mean, they don't deserve any confidence that they can because
Right.
all year, we're through almost half the season, and they're, right now they are 17, 15, and 5. They're 12, 5, and 5 at home, which is pretty good.
Right, and that's tied with there are a bunch of teams with 12 wins at home this season, including Detroit. So I mean, they're doing well at Scotiabank Arena, and that's a bit different from what we've seen in years past.
And they're 5-10-0
Oh.
on the road, and that's got to change. I mean, they have to. I mean, you'd have to turn it on to get to 500. What's the old saying? If you're 750 at home and you're 500 on the road, you're a playoff team. Well, they're 5 games under 500 on the road. And tonight they're going to be in tough with Hill to be in goal against Detroit, who they played last night. So they lost last night. So
is Detroit really that good?
No, they're not. But they've been more consistent. I mean, they have 47 points. They have 22 wins. They've been more consistent. They're 8 points ahead of the Leafs. Well, and there was the game earlier in the year where Cam Talbot stood on his head. And, they need to, I mean, I think their goaltending is a lot better. I think their defense is decent.
How are the Wings a -5?
Right.
They've scored less than they've given up. Like, it's crazy. And they're at the top of the division.
Right. And that's what I mean. They're not that good of a team. But then they played 2 more games than the Leafs. So, this is the Leafs need to win in regulation and narrow the gap. And then they have 2 games in hand and they're 6 points behind the Wings. So,
Right.
You see where, okay, Toronto can catch this team, and Toronto, there are 8 teams within 3 points right now. That's what's ridiculous about this Eastern Conference. But it means squat if you don't win and play consistently.
Guys, we've been down this road before. We've been down this road. 1 year ago, the Leafs were en route to winning a division title, and we were still unsettled. We were still unsettled because we've been down this road before. we are unsettled to a greater degree this season because we can all tell collectively that the Leafs just don't have it. That said, we need some hockey entertainment between now and whenever the Leaf season finishes. So we're expecting something out of them. And when it doesn't go well, the numbers go up, the views go up, the angst goes up online. When the team gets into a bit of a groove, then things settle down. But we're all waiting for the other shoe to drop here, Mike. Dennis Hildeby plays tonight, right? Because obviously Woll had the game against Pittsburgh. I mean, he wasn't fantastic against Ottawa, but I mean, the Leafs defensively just looked like complete shit. I mean, it wasn't, and we talked about that during the show. So he needs a bit of a rest. But Mike, whether like you can't expect any one goaltender, whether it's Wall, Hildeby, when Stolar's obviously when Berube was throwing him out there to the Wolves night in and night out to take a command and run with everything. I don't think any of these guys are at that stage in their careers and may never be where they can be Marty Brodeur-esque, Dominic Hasek-esque in terms of how they are out there night in and night out, and you can rely on them, especially with such a shady bunch of defensemen in front of them.
Well, I mean, I look at a couple things from last night, and it makes you shake your head. I mean, great. Max Domi had 3 assists.
Yeah.
And he was even,
Whatever.
which means he was on the ice for three Ottawa goals.
Right.
He's inept defensively. Matthew Nyes had 2 goals and an assist. He was even, which means he was on the ice for 3 goals. So, I mean, I know he had a power play goal. So, but my point is that these players need to walk and chew gum at the same time. They need to play good offensively, and they need to play at least respectably defensively. And here's the other lineup situation that I do not understand. If you're not going to play Easton Cowan in the NHL, then he should play in the AHL. He has been healthy scratched for the 3rd straight game. Make up your mind. Either he's an NHLer or he needs to play. One way or another, he needs to play. And this is what I don't understand. If he's hit the wall, okay, then send him to the American Hockey League and clear his cap space for a week or 2 weeks. I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's like, it's just not rocket science. It's like, I don't understand what they're doing. Kyle Yarncroke sitting in the press box is he's a veteran. He can step in, no problem.
Right.
Maybe Cowan steps in tonight because Nylander can't play. Maybe Yarncroke plays because he rested in one player. They'll shift in some of their tired players. But this is a 20-year-old kid who needs experience. It doesn't matter whether it's in the NHL or the AHL. He needs experience. So
especially now, why not give him a shot? I mean, he got on a bit of a run there. The momentum was building. Look, would it have been nice for Brad Treliving to replace the head coach this week and have somebody come in with a new set of ideas, even in this pinch? I think so. Craig Berube, to me, seems like he's out of his element. He's not getting out of the team what he wants. The pressure is on. He's got injuries to deal with. He's got young players to deal with. He's got stars who are wavering, and he can't fucking figure it out. And like I said, Mike, we've been down this road before with other things going on and similar results in the end. I don't see anything changing this time around. Potentially the head coach when it's all said and done. And the more I think about it, the more I see this team just kind of slogging along, the more I'm here for that change whenever it comes. And if you want to lump the general manager in with it too, I don't give a shit.
Well, Zach in the chat has a couple comments here. He agreed with the Cowan comment, but he said Lorenz for Cowan. Lorenz is a 4th liner and a penalty killer, so I wouldn't. And he actually plays. I think he plays a game with size, so I wouldn't take him out. Machelli not coming out. Again, he had 2 assists last night, and I'm just looking up the game summary on here. Okay, this is boring, but I'll just do this quickly here. Ridley Gregg goal, Machelli on the ice. The Drake Batherson goal, Michelli on the ice. Jordan Spence goal, Michelli on the ice. I mean, the guy had 2 assists, but he was on the ice for 3 Ottawa even strength goals. If you're telling me who's going to sit, who should sit for Easton Cowan, there's your guy right there.
Right. Okay. A rookie who could be somewhere else and generating momentum and getting better because he's on the ice constantly, not playing with the big team, but still being a part of that crew. That's contentious. Supplanting the Yarncrocs and the Lorenzes and the Michellis for one another, that's just fucking minutia. It's just guy for guy. None of those guys are going to come in and light a fire under this team's collective ass and have it go on a run of epic proportions. It's just minutia. When it comes to Easton Cowan, look, I mean, if Berube's not doing right by the guy, Brad Treliving should be ordering what happens next for him, right?
Well,
because Easton Cowan's the future for this team. I'm not saying the future, but part of the future.
In this instance, Brad Treliving, again, he has control of the roster in the sense that, okay, if you're not playing him, I mean, I'm sure, if you're Treliving is no fool. I'm sure he's told Berube, he says, if you're not going to play this kid here, he has to play. So he's going to go down. And he was sent down, but even if it was a paper move, he was sent down and he played a couple games with the Marlies. Right. There's no harm in him going to play with the Marlies. He'd be on their top line. He'd be on their top power play. He'd get 20 minutes a night. That's what he needs. Now, if they're giving him a rest in the middle of the season because this is the most NHL games. I'm sure he expends more energy in NHL games than he did with the London Knights. But, I mean, playing 30 some odd games in the NHL is taxing. And if right now he needs a blow, okay, fine. Then he needs a rest. But say that. Don't just healthy scratch. I mean, that's again, the lack of transparency with this Maple Leaf organization this year has been dazzling in the negative. And, I won't even go into Anthony Stolarz, who's been out 2 months with a day-to-day injury. I mean, I still can't believe that one.
Look at you kicking him while he's down. You've never liked the guy. He's not even around, and you're bringing him up. Who cares?
I'm not kicking Anthony Stolarz. I'm kicking the Maple Leafs. It's like, day-to-day injury. Okay, what's the injury? He's been out since November 11th. Next week will be 2 months. Right. With what? He's not concussed. Okay, then what the hell is it?
We don't like the play on the ice. We don't like the way the team is governing itself. And Brad Treliving, he screwed himself. He could have cut ties with Berube, brought in an interim head coach, or coerced Peter DeBoer to join the sinking ship. He didn't. He found somebody to take the fall and ultimately receive the bullet in Mark Savard. Whether that's justified or not, I mean, we can debate that. Sure, the power play sucked, but he was the wrong guy to get the hook, if you know what I mean. And now Treliving pins his hopes and dreams on whatever Berube can summon up between now and April. And at the end of the day, he's lost a lot of credibility in my books. He really has. And the ultimate result for all of this could be Berube getting it and the general manager getting it right after him. But, wouldn't that be the ultimate insult to have Treliving fire Berube before Treliving is fired himself? I think he lost a lot of credibility, and it just typifies the season, where we are right now and where we're most likely going to go. Last word to you, Mike.
We're not in the MLS&E boardroom. We don't know. We don't have the knowledge of what Keith Pelly has told Treliving. And if Keith Pelly said, you don't have the authority to fire Berube, you're locked to him, then he really couldn't fire Berube. Then basically it was like, shake up the staff, see if that works. So far they've won 2 games. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. I don't know. All I know is there was no reason to not fire Berube. The fact that he had 2 years left in his contract, who cares? Rogers Prince money, they'd be spending more money on a bad right-handed reliever for the Blue Jays than they would be for the coach of the team that means something in Toronto. So, I mean,
Are
Leaf
you
fans.
bringing up Tyler Rogers? I think he's going to be
No,
off.
no, I'm not even. I'm not even bringing up anybody specific, but
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
a left-handed situational in the major leagues
Right,
costs $4 or $5 million, and that's
right.
what most of the coaches cost. So, yeah,
All
we'll
right.
see what happens.
Timberwolf and OG's been with us since day one. Norm, they need Brad fired, and the chief needs to ride the core. Then, when they find a new GM, not a retread, someone brand new, Hughes was a free agent 5 years ago. Look outside the box.
Kyle Dubas was brand new, Timber. So I'm telling you right now, and I've heard rumors. I'm not going to say here because they're completely unsubstantiated. The rumors are, if they go for a new GM next year, it'll be somebody who has been a GM before and who might be a GM right now.
You can't bring up any names.
No, I can't. I really can't. I don't want to.
Oh.
I don't want to speculate because I don't know for sure, and I don't want to. I just don't want to do it.
Mike, this is episode 16 of season 8. We're probably going to do anywhere between 40 to 50 episodes, maybe even 60. We're going to get it out of you at some time.
Sure.
And here's the thing. Why are the Leafs just so what are they so fearful of when it comes to like just firing guys and getting rid of guys? I mean, Boston had the greatest regular season of all time. They started like shit a year later, and they fired the head coach that led them to that President's Trophy. Why can't the Leafs do the same? What is it about? There's just like I wouldn't say a malaise, but these guys just freeze up, and they can't seem to make these bold moves that a lot of other organizations have no problem making.
If you have an explanation for it, send it my way because I can't give you one.
Yeah. Massett Atkins. Hey guys. Massett's down in Detroit, site of tonight's game between the Leafs and Wings. Very similar teams in terms of, what they have on paper, but Detroit's kind of kept it together, and that's why they're at the top of the division. A bit of smoke and mirrors, most likely. Are the Leafs smoke and mirrors? Should they really be where they are?
I mean, I think
Should they be better?
I think they've dramatically underachieved this year,
Okay.
but the instances and the reasons why I think they've been wounded more by injuries than Detroit has.
Right.
Detroit's problem is the fact that they're not very deep up front. They don't score a ton. T-Sack in the chat, he's like, they got two young studs on defense, and he's right. Sider is an excellent young defenseman. Edvinsson is really good. They've got some veterans, but if you look at their up front, it's Raymond, it's Larkin, it's maybe Kane when he's healthy, and that's it. And if they don't, but Kane turns, Dylan Larkin enjoys nothing more than scoring against the Maple Leafs. That guy will put ketchup and mustard on that hot dog and do the bolo punch and all that stuff. And DeBrincat, thank you very much, Jeremy. Yeah, but they have maybe 3 or 4 weapons. Toronto has more weapons. If Nylander's not in the lineup, that's one that will hurt. But they have more weapons. The problem is that defensively, the Leafs have just been completely inconsistent in the last 2 games. Like I said, they blew a lead against Pittsburgh, who's been one of the worst teams the last 10 games, and they blew a lead against Ottawa and almost gave away the game when they were leading 5-2 in the second period. You can't win games consistently if you played as haphazard defensively as the Maple Leafs have throughout the season.
Christmas Leafs Convo poll, youtube.com/at Leafs Convo/post. How did the Leafs finish up for 2025? This question was asked before last night's game against Ottawa. 116 votes, Mike. 40% say the Leafs will finish 1 and 2. So they got that win out of the way. That means a couple of losses are to come. But really, we'll have to see tonight, Mike. The Leafs are so fucking top heavy. They've always just been so front loaded with great offensive talent. Average to mediocre to sometimes okay defense, and just a carousel of decent goaltenders, but no real, Vezina winners. And it's just, again, how do you get out of that cycle, Mike? Really, I mean, they could have maybe a few years ago when they had the opportunity to trade somebody like Nylander. right? And maybe brought back picks or young defensemen. But Ben Danford's not going to be the answer. He's going to be a good one, I believe, but he's not going to be the answer. And, I don't know if this team ever really accomplishes the goals we'd all like to see them accomplish until they've made that change, until the philosophy and the focus is predominant on the back end, and then you kind of pick away and make your offensive changes to help augment that really solid group from the defenseman personnel all the way back to the goaltender. What else is going on with you, Mike? Where else can we find you?
Just writing every day at Hockey Hot Stove about the Leafs. Also, hockey news covering the Sabres, who are right now the hottest team in the NHL, winning 8 straight. But like I said, they've won 8 straight and they're 3 points ahead of Toronto. So the Eastern Conference is nuts. Mm-hmm. And you've got most of the Eastern Conference within 8 points of each other. It's going to be a fun ride.
If you're hoping that the Leafs are going to get anywhere, then this is a good place to be, jumbled in with a bunch of mediocrity. I got to think, Mike, with, the expectation that Craig Berube was going to be fired and just a lot of the angst and animosity directed towards the Maple Leafs, and justifiably so, that people have been coming to you as a shoulder to cry on, and that's helped you extend your brand, grow what you're trying to do.
Well, I don't know if that's shoulder to cry on, because I'm complaining just about as much as the fans are. I mean, I look at this team objectively, and I notice the flaws, and I've noticed the flaws. It's not all Mitch Marner, folks. It's not all the fact that they let Mitch Marner leave. It's not all the fact. I saw Fraser Minton last night play for Boston against Buffalo. He was completely. I barely noticed him.
Yeah.
So, it's not what left, it's what's here and what's not playing right. And when this team is playing at their highest level, they're a good team. They just haven't played at their highest level, and they need to. The safety net of having number 16 be on the point of the power play or on the top line or on the top penalty kill, that's gone. Now you need everybody else to step up and play better. And in the second half of this season, if they don't do that, then they're going to end up outside looking in.
Convert Chris Daniels letting Mitch walk for nothing is killer. What else were they supposed to do?
Well, Chris, I agree. That's on Brendan Shanahan for firing Kyle Dubas 5 weeks before the no move clause kicked in. And then you spent 2 years begging Mitch to say, would you waive your no move clause? That's not management. That's horse assery.
Right.
And there was a comment in the chat, and we don't have to bring it up, but there was a comment in the chat about passing on Alex DeBrincat back in 2016 when he was drafted. I was at that draft, folks. It wasn't Kyle Dubas who passed on him. It was Mark Hunter. It was your savior, Mark Hunter, who you want as the Leafs GM. He was the one who drafted basically after he drafted Joseph Woll in the 3rd round and passed on. Who was it? Oh, Carter Hart. Although, maybe that was a good thing, but Carter Hart was a better goalie overall. But passed on Carter Hart, drafted Igor Korshkov at the top of the 2nd round, who played 1 game for the Leafs. So Alex DeBrincat should have been a pick.
Right. But who says you can't cry over spilt milk, Mike? That's what we do here week in and week out. OG's Converts. Like the content, subscribe to the channel. We appreciate you very much. We'll take steps forward, even if the Leafs take a few steps back. And then who knows, down the line, we may be in unison completely. The two entities, our project and what the Leafs are trying to put together. And we'll have a fun run at the end of winter through spring and then maybe beyond that. For Mike Augello, I'm Norm James. Season's greetings. Happy holidays. The Leafs Convo for now is out.